This essay, even though it's not an essay, it's more of off the top speech, is titled Avoid Labeling Yourself Negatively. Or I might just call it The Myth of Self Image, whatever. This essay is titled The Myth of Self Image. So, self image. I've had this discussion a few times, especially recently, about how most things that we do, particularly the things we don't like doing, they all come down to self image, the way you see yourself, the kind of person that you identify as, and why that in itself is a myth. Why there's really no such self thing as there's no such thing as I am this kind of person. It's more like you become the kind of person that you train yourself to become. So for example, why I said avoid labeling yourself negatively is because I was having a conversation with one of my friends last night, and she was really going through some shit. And she kept calling herself labels. She kept saying, I'm stupid, I'm a failure, I'm an alcoholic, I'm, like I'm not a good student, stuff like that. So the common pattern in all of those things was that she was labeling her own self and not the things that she was doing that reflect the behaviors that she was labeling herself. Like for example, when she says I'm stupid, she's not labeling it as I keep doing stupid things. Because when you say you are stupid, then you are kind of eternally binding yourself to always be the kind of person who does stupid things because you are a stupid person, right? So that's the thing about how you view yourself, and this thing of self image is that it wants to protect itself at all costs. A good, okay, a person who has been regularly getting great marks at school, or a person who has a great body because they've spent so much time in the gym, if they go through a dark period in their life, like something really traumatic or really painful happens, I'm not gonna start listing examples out here, but like, what it could be. Like maybe your grandma dies, or you discover a new substance that's very affordable for your current budget, or you go through a breakup with a girl you've been dating for 3 years who you'd already paid lobola for. Shit like that, that really changes the circumstances in either your life or your internal world. All of us eventually get, all of us eventually reach that kind of dark period, at least once, if you're really lucky. So, of course, when you're in that dark period, most people default to self destruction. When you are depressed, you don't want to go to the gym. You don't want to go out and be social and talk to your relatives and your friends or just beautiful women in the street. You don't want to study. You don't want to open up your business so that your customers can come in instead of shouting for you at the gate or calling you for hours on end. That might have been a little too personal. But like, yeah, you don't want to do that shit. But if you have done all of that shit for a very long time, it becomes the label you put on yourself. You become the athlete because you've spent so much time in the gym that you are now athletic. You become the good student, i.e., the identity label, because you have spent so much time studying that you could consistently get good marks. And so you will continue doing the things that help you continue being the person who you identify as. So if you identify as an athlete, but even if you go through some kind of dark period, you will always default towards the things that identified you as an athlete. Like you will always try your best to eat healthy or try your best to go to the gym, even if you are not going as ham as you usually would, but just to do the thing that an athlete would do, like as part of their daily routine. And those are what I would say are good labels to apply to yourself. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a YouTuber, I'm a good husband, I'm a good student, I'm an athlete, I'm a great musician, stuff like that. You label your own self positively. You label your own self towards, like in alignment towards the things that are necessary for you to do in order to keep being that person. So, in order to illustrate this example further negatively, a person who identifies as a stoner smokes weed several times a day, every single day. Because if you are a stoner and you are not stoning, then you're not a stoner. But the self-image or the identity label you've placed on yourself is that of a stoner. So on like a subconscious level, this might sound like bro science or whatever, but like on a subconscious level, then you want to keep doing things to protect the identity of being a stoner. If you view yourself as an addict, then you will keep doing things that help you keep identifying as an addict. But instead of labels, when it comes to like the negative things, what if you tried labeling them as actions instead of a whole negative thing? Like, for example, the athlete who goes through a dark period and then they pick up smoking, for example. If this athlete was like, yeah, I'm an athlete who smokes cigarettes sometimes, then he's not a cigarette athlete. He's not a cigarette addict. He's an athlete at the end of the day. It's just that he has this bad habit that kind of interferes with the rest of his identity, that is kind of opposed to the identity of an athlete, which means this is a thing that he can change way more easily. Like a habit is something that you can change way more easily because a habit comes as a product of who you identify as. But an identity is a group of habits that keep reinforcing that identity. Man, I hope that clicks. I hope that makes sense. Is that when it comes to your identity, let's just stick to one example. When it comes to your identity as an athlete, then you know that I have to get good sleep. I have to train every single day, even if I'm not going as ham, because rest is as important a part of training as is training. My diet needs to be on point. I need to keep getting feedback from other people who watch my performances, who can tell me why I can perform better, stuff like that. Like an athlete optimizes their whole life towards being an athlete, towards athleticism. A business person optimizes their whole life towards their business because without the business, they are no longer a business person. And similarly, an addict or a criminal optimizes their whole life towards being an addict or a criminal. Like, for example, an addict makes sure that they always have money to get the thing that they need to get their fix. Or they always have a way of getting money or a way of getting the fix. But at the end of the day, their goal is the fix on a daily basis, sometimes a multiple daily basis. And similarly, for the athlete, he optimizes his life so that he's always at his top performance. So, I got interrupted there and lost my fire, but I couldn't just leave this video without a cool ending, whatever. So, I think I was beating a dead horse anyway, because I was making an example about an addict, an athlete, and a criminal, right? I didn't mention, like, the criminal always makes sure that he has the tools he needs to do the crime on him, he's always carrying a weapon or like a paper clip or whatever QR code or jamming thing that they have, because that's usually like whatever they do to make money or live, or that's just how they live. So similarly, like, you always carry your phone on yourself because of whatever you identify as. because like your phone is part of the habits that build up your identity, at least the identity you currently have. But most low-level criminals don't carry their phones on them because they know crime might happen to them as well. If they even have phones. Fuck. But anyway, yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. If you got any value out of this, stick around for more insightful takes and try and pick better labels for yourself starting today. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.